one of the things that I think the song, one of the big values I wanted to espouse in it was just ownership and kind of trying to transition from like a worker mentality and seeing that as a way to help my community by like having a community service job, like as a teacher, to like transition and say like, I want to serve my community by owning things in my community. And like, you know, we purchased a home and now we own a business and I don't work for anyone. And then we bought an abandoned lot in our neighborhood. Like, and even just transitioning into music and making my own beats and stuff like that, you know, like we made that beat, shooting our own visuals. It's been crazy. And so one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was like, we just had a really crazy collaboration drop today. So like with music, one of the things I've learned from you is the power of owning your intellectual property, right? And how that could turn into sync licenses, owning your masters. We recently just got a deal with our coffee company where we're starting to sync our intellectual property for the coffee. So like we're basically doing like leases for our IP with other companies that like dig what we're doing. And so they're creating products using our intellectual property, and we still get, you know, 50% of the dividend on that, but don't have to necessarily, we don't have to put the money up front. And we're not, it's passive, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so like, I think that's something that I never would have thought about, just taking a brand and doing that and learning you could lease just the brand. It doesn't have to be coffee. I think that's just something that I would love to hear your thoughts on.
You have a company, a brand called Coffee Black, and people are wanting to license the likeness of Coffee Black, and you still collect a royalty on that, and you don't have to put up the bread.
We don't have to do the labor, and we don't have to do the maintenance.
Here's a dope part about that. So people don't know this. Michael Jordan's royalty rate. Anybody know Michael Jordan's royalty rate off the top? 5%.
What?
5%. Kanye's royalty rate. Y'all want to know what Kanye's royalty rate is for Yeezy? The royalty rate that's made him the second richest black man in the world. Y'all want to know what Kanye's royalty rate is? Kanye's royalty rate on Yeezy? 11%.
Wow.
Think about that for a second. Michael Jordan's a billionaire. His royalty rate is 5%. Kanye's royalty rate on Adidas, his Yeezy Adidas stuff, is 11%. Why am I bringing that up? Because he doesn't have to own the entire process. He doesn't have to put all the money up. He doesn't, right? Adidas gives him a marketing budget. That's how Jesus is Lord and the whole choir thing was funded. It was actually the Yeezy marketing budget that, instead of him putting money in advertisements, he took that, put that into his whole campaign, and everybody at all the Sunday services things was wearing Yeezys, right? And you guys could look all this up and verify all this, by the way, and you should. So that's actually a genius move, right? So he takes the money that Adidas gave him to market it instead, and Kanye doesn't have to market anything. He just needs to make noise, and then people will go buy his products from proxy of it, right? So he made sure everybody wore that, and that's how he funded the whole Sunday service thing, and from his pocket as well. So I say all that to say, an 11% royalty rate made Kanye the second wealthiest black man in the world, right? Wealthier than Jay-Z, wealthier than Dr. Dre, wealthier than a lot of other people we know to be billionaires. And that goes to say, when you have a great product, licensing is the name of the game. You don't need to do any work. All you got to do is say, I got this fire idea, and there's equity in the brand that's so heavy that just your logo and the quality of it, because you got a quality control, which I think with the folks at Onyx, right, they totally.
And monsters with it,
So you're getting a 50% royalty rate, and you don't have to put up any of the bread. You don't got to think through the infrastructure. You don't got to do any of the fulfillment. They handle all that, and you get a royalty rate. That's incredible. Imagine. Now let's just dream for a minute. Imagine if someday Coffee Black becomes so big that Starbucks wants to feature it in the stores. So you do a collaboration with Starbucks.
Bro, you said in the vision board for 2021, bro.
Right? But imagine if you don't get 50%, but you get 15%.
But see, this conversation is valuable because I don't know what normal percentages are. I'm only used to doing business at a smaller level, so I'm used to everything being 50-50, but I'm also putting up 50% of the labor.
Right.
But it makes sense, like, okay, boom, people getting 6%, 8%, 5%, 11%. And even though you're working with a larger brand, your likeness is on it, and then that continues in perpetuity. You just want that passive to continue to trickle and try to go for volume. That's a bar, bro. So here's my question, though. My question is this.
And by the way, just to go back, Kanye owns the trademark on Yeezy. So it's not like Jordan. I don't think Jordan owns the trademark on Jordan, but Kanye owns the trademark on Yeezy, which is effectively how his net worth is determined to be $5 billion because it's the equity of the ownership of the intellectual property, not necessarily what he's making passively every year off that 11% royalty rate.
I think royalties.
Yeah, I think his royalty rate, he still makes great money off the royalty rate, but I think he's only making, I believe, like $200 million, $300 million a year. But how you determine somebody's net worth is different than what their income is. You see what I'm saying?
So we just contacted an attorney, which is crazy. It's actually Nelly's attorney, which is like really, really random. Like, it's like one of our coffee friends was friends with him in college and connected us. And so, like, that dude is the dude who trademarked everything for us. He's used to working with IP, and I think he works with Rap Snacks too. So he's a great dude. Shout out to Wooten. But he made this, like, 10-page contract for this IP licensing thing that we want to do, because we want to do this with a bunch of companies. And I'm trying to figure out, I don't want to I don't think it's necessary that everyone sign that, right? Mm-hmm. But I think it's useful to communicate the information of what we're trying to do and to communicate who maintains ownership clearly and kind of what the goal is.
Yeah. Coffee Black is you and your wife. That should be clear, period.
Yeah, and we did all the stuff just because like other people are going to be printing it on their stuff, and people are going to see it who don't know about us. Mm-hmm. So it would make sense to want to do that. My question is, like, I'm mentoring a lot of younger guys, and I want to teach them how to build a brand and then backwards plan so that you can get to licensing, either license your music or license your brand or something associated with what you build. What would be your advice if you were like teaching somebody who's 16, 17, you know, smart in high school on how to backwards plan something into licensing, if that makes sense? Yeah,
no, that's a great question. The thing about it is it takes trial and error, right? Like, it takes trial and error. So it may not be the first thing, right? Like, I got a lot of buddies who are trying to start brands, and when you are starting the brand from the place of I'm trying to be fulfilled from this venture, it's the wrong mentality to start it from. Instead of like Starbucks is genius in that they took an age-old product that's as old as civilization itself, damn near, coffee, and pre-Starbucks, coffee wasn't a cultural phenomenon. It was like for people in offices that made trash coffee. Right, and they took something that's old and made it new again, right? And it was because I know this because this was the metaphor our church was using for the gospel. Let's take something that's ancient and been around for forever, and let's repackage it the way Starbucks repackaged coffee. Coffee was exploding at the time. The church I'm a part of was planted, right? So you kind of did the same thing if you think about it with coffee. Like, you took a product that is, just say it, colonized, right? He took a product,
and made it black again,
right? And you made it black again, right? And you're opening up another world, yourself up to a whole nother demographic of people that probably already consume coffee. They just don't feel a part of the experience and the culture of it. So therefore, you kind of did it again. You literally did what Starbucks did, and you did it again. And then there's already an ecosystem of the propagandas and the onyxes that are already there with you. Had you came into this with the same mentality, and I'm not saying this is a bad mentality, but the mentality you had for when you were doing your Sunday, your freestyle things, right?
On the spots,
the on the spots. And those were dope. Those were fire. But they were more about highlighting how dope Bart was as an artist, not necessarily what was Bart offering to the world that people don't know they need or are using.
It wasn't literally something. So low key, when we did that, we dreamed of being able to like build it out to kind of look more like a TV show that we would stream, and then we would have sponsors like coffee sponsors. This is before we had a brand, so we were like, man, we can get Onyx and these other businesses to like sponsor us and give us coffee to brew. Yeah, and it's crazy now. I think it was like my thinking was sort of in the right direction. Yes, but I wasn't thinking about I wasn't really thinking about ownership. Yep, I was thinking about working for someone else or just getting stuff that I liked, not necessarily like the value of owning something. So now you got a bar. Next thing we got to shoot for start. We got like 3. I want to do 16 of these for the next 16 months. And then could continue them in perpetuity for as long as the coffee lasts. Yeah, I think what I would do if I were to tell anybody that's trying to start a brand or trying to have IP is you have to. It has to be valuable somehow to people, right? Even me with this like politically agnostic thing, right? Like it's literally me doing something that I believe in, and then other people saying. They said, I feel politically homeless. That's the phrase I've been. I feel politically homeless, and you make me feel like I'm a part of something, right? Yeah. And I'm like, yo, and so I'm like, yo, I'm just gonna do a big drop. I'm gonna double down on it, and I'm gonna see, like, can I move a couple? Because now, see, I know where the bar is. I know how many shirts you sold because you told me, right? I know what Belief just did, because I know the numbers they did, which is between me and you, it's 50% more than you did, right? That's crazy. Bro. So it's not like you were off, right? Like, so just do the math on that. So I'm not gonna give away numbers, but the orders you did times that by 1.5, right? That's what they did approximately. So that just shows that you have depth as well. So I'm like, okay, I know where to forecast. So if I could do half of what Bart did with politically agnostic, maybe then I double down on that and go all in and make that more of a line, right? I'm thinking my thing is King's Dream Outlier, King's Dream Outlier, King's Dream Outlier. But if there's not a demand for it and it's not resonating with people, the culture, then I need to get off of my soapbox and making it about me and my idea and saying, no. What does the consumer want? If people are like, yo, I feel politically homeless. I hate how divisive we are as a country. We need a third option. I'm politically agnostic. I'm going all in on that. You know what I'm saying? And then I get the trademark and I do the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so if there's one thing I think that does, as I'm listening to you, I'm translating this back to how I was connecting to the little homies. And I would say if you want to, not thinking about it, because I wasn't thinking about this. I don't think you were thinking about it. I don't think Belief was. But whatever you do, you have to be the thing that you're selling.
Absolutely. You have to. You have to be congruent. You have to be congruent.
Because the worst. If you are, then when you sell it, you're not selling that. You're just being who God made you to be, which makes it so even you, like, you're not King's Dream Outlier. Right. That's a brand. But you are politically agnostic. Like, you're an immigrant. You came over here. You're in this weird in-between space where you're like, I acknowledge white privilege, but also I'm an immigrant. I'm a refugee. I really know what communism really is. Right. Like, you are literally that. Right. And so the like you're saying, what was the word you used?
Congruent.
The congruency of that message. Like, I'm black, right? So I'm not an immigrant. You know what I mean? I've never been in a communist place, but I tell people I'm politically agnostic. Like, when I'm talking to my friends who are like libertarian or who are like, black Republicans or who are super hard Democrats, I'm like, I'm agnostic. And it's like a get out of jail free card. Like,
it is a
great. People believe it. They're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Yeah, so no, I think you're totally right. And by the way, I am a King's Dream Outlier too. I just think that takes a little harder to explain that to people.
It doesn't make as much sense.
And it doesn't make as much sense as just saying I'm politically agnostic, right? So it's just knowing where the culture is, knowing where the timing is, and then once you find something that is, like you said, congruent to you, and also timely, then it strikes. The issue I'm running into is I'm like, am I a little too late on the politically agnostic thing, right? Because the election is a couple weeks away, but I'm banking on, one, it's a couple weeks away, but it's going to take them a while to tally up the votes, and this is going to be tied up just like it was in 2000. I don't know how well you remember the Al Gore Bush thing, but that went on for
Ooh.
months. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
And
bro, I haven't heard Al Gore's name in forever.
Yeah, well, he won that election technically. You know what I'm saying? And they just kind of, the big brother in Florida just kind of made it happen for Bush. If you go back and actually study.
I just had an idea. What if I just see like you with doing a like get out the vote campaign, and it's just masses of people wearing your shirt, like walking in slow-mo to the polls, and like it's just like the change is coming, and that's the end of it. Like I feel like people would buy your shirt just to be able to be like whatever, because it's kind of like the phrase is ambiguous. You could be conservative and be politically agnostic. You could be liberal, but whatever that means for you, you're like, me wearing this shirt when I go to the polls is letting people know that I want to see change.
Yep. Yep.
That could be cold, bro.
Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna write that down.
Last thing, what if I'm communicating, and again, I'm a teacher and I'm thinking about discipleship. If I'm teaching, some of the guys that I mentor, I'm like, boom. So I want to teach you about intellectual property, but when we're talking about IP, instead of saying intellectual property, let's talk about identity property. You know what I mean? Or think about your identity properly, bars. So like, then it's like, if you think about your identity properly, it will lead you to intellectual property, God's property. So like, I think that's what I'm going to teach. That's what I'm going to teach. And I pulled that from this conversation, so I appreciate you. But I think that's low key. If it was 3 steps to building IP, the first step is getting your IP correct. Like, understanding your identity properly is the first step. I don't know what steps 2 and 3, because it always got to be 2 or 3 steps, but I pulled that from this conversation. I'm going to share it with the homies and let you know what they think next week.
Understanding your identity properly leads to your intellectual property. That is a freaking bar. I literally wrote that down. Yikes.
That's a win, bro.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I think you're totally right, bro. And I think we see, I'm uber optimistic in that I believe anybody who's creative, charismatic, charming, and halfway good looking has an idea in them that's worth sharing and worth impacting others. I don't think
the same way.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lid.
Like, image.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lid. I think you can get it, we can get it, everybody who's watching this can get it. I think we could all get it. You know what I mean? So thank you, man.
That's real, bro. I feel like if you're built in the image of God, you inherently have value, and money is just exchanging, it's just identifying or calculating someone's property with some type of other currency. So like, if you're building God's image, that's infinite value. And then entrepreneurship should just be us communicating our value to the market so that they can then invest in that with some type of like currency. You know
say that last part one more time. You said entrepreneurship is just what? Say that last.
So God, we're made in God's image, which means we have infinite value. So entrepreneurship is us communicating God's infinite value uniquely expressed through us to the market so that they can then receive that value and invest in it through currency. You know what I mean?
And when you think about it, it is literally who we are as people. Meaning this, I'm with my people, and I'm like, yo, Bart, I got these eggs. You know what I'm saying? I got these chickens. I got these eggs. And you're like, cool. I know how to start a fire. I'm like, dope. Help me start a fire. You can get some of these eggs. Boom. That is literally what just happened, right? We both have our unique dwellings in the marketplace, and we both just cross-pollinated our value, and everybody wins. You know what I mean? So
and to spiritualize it, we're each uniquely bearing out the image of God.
Really interesting.
And so as we're uniquely bearing out the image of God, people are receiving portions of who God truly is in a fuller piece, which then helps them better communicate what God has given them to say, or each body does its portion, So I think that's a win, bro. And I always try to connect stuff back to discipleship, because the conversations I'm having with the young homies about sanctification should lead to them being able to make some type of financial growth too. As you get more, what was the word again? Was synchronicity? What was the word?
Congruency. As
you get more congruency with who Yeshua is calling you to be, that should help you to be more precise and congruent as you communicate your value given through the image of God to the market. So I think if it goes back, it helps me think through communication, but I think it also helps just for business stuff too. But the discipleship stuff, like, I think they got to go together, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, the more you can be the person who God created you to be, the more valuable you are, the more helpful you are.
The more money you gonna make.
The more money. Like, I was just talking to one of my homegirls, and I don't want to stay on this forever, but I was just talking to one of my homegirls where she posted a thing on Instagram. So homegirl from high school. And I could tell she kind of been struggling and going through it for years, right? And she was like, yo, she was like, I was having blood in my urine, and I had blood in my urine for a minute, and I didn't know what it was, and I kept going to doctors and this and this and that, and she said they couldn't tell me what it was. I went to the best doctors, and she said I finally just decided to stop drinking, you know. And I stopped drinking, and everything in my life got aligned. And I don't think she's had an encounter with Jesus, like, but everything in her life got more aligned as she removed something that in hindsight, she's
she
like,
pulled out the sugar and cream. Hallelujah. Yes, her notes, her cup, her brew became a bit bolder.
There you go. And she was like, she said she told herself that I'm not gonna have another drink until I'm a millionaire. That's what she said, until I make $1 million, right? And then she said the more she thought about that, she's like, why would I ever have another drink ever again? You know what I mean? Like, even when I make $1 million, because it does nothing for me. And so, like, right, and I'm not saying like all alcohol is bad all the time. I'm just saying for her, that was the thing that was preventing her from being in alignment with the person that God created her to be. And I'm believing that through this whole process, if she hasn't had an encounter with Jesus, she will. You know what I mean? And so it's been really cool to see her completely. She's been sober for 6 months. She's getting her businesses off the ground. I actually sent her your stuff. I was like, yo, look at Belief. Look at Bartholomew. She's, woman of color. Look at all these people that are getting it. We could all get it, you know? And so I just started showing her stuff just to inspire her. And she was like, yo, this is incredible. So she wants to launch some kind of head wrap or something. I'm not quite sure what it is, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, yo, that's dope. Like, there's a market for it, you know?
No, send it to me when she drops. We're going to support it. We'll post it on the page.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'll tell her you said that. Word up. Yeah, so she knows who you are, man. That's good stuff, bro. That's really good. Guys, Bartholomew Jones, Coffee Black. Make sure you're following him.
Kingstream Entertainment. Ruslan.